Picture this. You just spent a small fortune on a beautiful razor-thin 75-inch television. The picture quality is so sharp, you can see the individual pores on a secondary actor's nose. You sit down with your popcorn, turn on an epic sci-fi blockbuster, and it sounds like an angry wasp buzzing inside an empty Pringles can. Welcome back to the channel. I am Sal, and today we are going to fix the biggest design flaw in modern home entertainment. The harsh reality is that television manufacturers have spent the last decade making screens incredibly thin, which is great for your wall, but disastrous for your ears. Physics is an unforgiving beast. To get deep, rich, booming audio, a speaker needs physical depth to move air. When a TV is only an inch thick, the built-in speakers end up being the size of coins, pointing downward or backward into your drywall. The result is muddled dialogue, non-existent bass, and an overall flat experience. Naturally, the solution is to buy an external soundbar. But if you walk into a retail showroom unprepared, you are walking straight into a trap carefully laid out by slick sales representatives. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the hidden tricks of the showroom floor, the technical bottlenecks that will ruin your setup at home, and the post-purchase surprises that no one warns you about. By the end of this video, you will be fully weaponized with the knowledge to pick the perfect audio setup without overpaying for marketing hype. Let us start with the biggest psychological trap in retail, the engineered demo alcove. When you walk into a big box electronics store, a salesperson will eagerly lead you to a specialized, dimly lit corner. They grab a remote, press play on a highly customized demonstration loop, usually a clip of a fighter jet roaring across the screen, or a perfectly mixed musical performance. And suddenly, you are enveloped in a wall of majestic sound. Your feelings shake from the bass. You are sold. You hand over your credit card, drive home, unbox the unit, and plug it into your living room. And then, total disappointment. The audio sounds thin, the echo is distracting, and you are constantly reaching for the remote to turn the volume up during dialogue and down during explosions. What happened? You were tricked by acoustics. Retail showrooms engineer their display areas with low acoustic ceilings, carpeted floors, and surrounding display walls that perfectly reflect sound waves right back to your ears. Your actual home, however, likely features high ceilings, hardwood or tile floors, large glass windows, and an open concept layout into the kitchen. Sound waves behave completely differently in an open space. That budget soundbar that sounded like a movie theater in the store is now struggling to fill a massive, echo-prone room. Furthermore, those showroom display models are often running custom software loops, optimized specifically for that exact hardware layout, with the bass and treble settings maxed out to hidden profiles. They are hiding the fact that the unit might sound terrible when playing a standard, poorly mixed streaming track from a basic cable box or standard app. When you start browsing for a soundbar, you will encounter a confusing string of numbers separated by decimals. A salesperson will try to convince you that a higher number automatically means better sound. But let us break down what you are actually buying so you do not fall for the numbers game. You will typically see ratings like 2.0, 3.1, or 5.1.2. Let us decode this jargon piece by piece. The first digit tells you how many traditional horizontal audio channels are packed inside the main bar. A 2 means you have a left speaker and a right speaker. A 3 is where things get interesting because it means the manufacturer added a dedicated center speaker channel. If you take away only one piece of advice from this video, let it be this. Never buy a soundbar for your main television that is less than a 3-channel system. That dedicated center speaker is engineered to handle human vocal frequencies exclusively. Without it, the system forces dialogue to the left and right channels along with the background music and explosions, which is exactly why you cannot understand what characters are whispering without turning the volume up to dangerous levels. The second digit indicates the presence of a subwoofer, which is the separate, boxy unit that sits on your floor to handle low-frequency special effects. A 1 means you have a subwoofer included. A 0 means you do not. The third digit, which you will find on premium systems, represents the upward-firing drivers designed for spatial audio, commonly known by the brand name Dolby Atmos. A 2 at the end means there are 2 physical speakers inside the bar, angled upward toward your ceiling, designed to bounce sound waves over your head to simulate helicopters flying above you, or rain falling from the sky. Here is the hidden sales quirk. Companies love to slap the words Dolby Atmos on a box because they know it sells units. However, many budget soundbars claiming to support this format are actually 2.0 or 3.1 systems with 0 upward-firing speakers. They are using cheap digital processing tricks, often called virtual spatial audio, to digitally alter the sound waves to fool your brain. It rarely works well in a real room. If you want true physical spatial audio, you must look at the specifications and ensure that third digit is physically present in the speaker array. Now, let us discuss the technical disasters that occur after you bring the box home. The salesperson wants to get you to the cash register, so they will rarely ask you about the inputs on the back of your current television. This opens the door for the dreaded port bottleneck. To connect a modern soundbar, you will use an interface called HDMI ARC, which stands for Audio Return Channel. This allows a single cable to send audio from your TV down to the speaker. However, standard HDMI ARC has a strict data speed limit. It simply does not have the electronic highway space to transmit massive, uncompressed, high-end audio tracks like Dolby True HD or full, uncompressed spatial audio. To solve this, newer audio systems and modern televisions use a standard called HDMI ARC. This is a massive data superhighway capable of moving pristine, cinematic audio formats without losing a single drop of quality. Here's the trap. If you purchase a top-tier premium system like the Sonos ARC Ultra, which relies heavily on eARC to deliver its advanced acoustic landscape, but you plug it into a 5-year-old television that only features standard HDMI ARC, your television will instantly choke the signal. The TV's internal computer will force the audio down into a heavily compressed, lower-quality format before sending it to the speaker. You essentially paid a massive premium for a high-performance sports car, but your older television is forcing you to drive it through a congested school zone. Another hidden issue is codec licensing rejection. The two titans of cinematic audio are Dolby and DTS. Many television brands, in an effort to save money on corporate licensing fees, completely refuse to decode DTS audio formats within their television operating systems. If you purchase a soundbar that prides itself on processing spectacular DTS digital surround, or DTS-X audio tracks, and you play a physical Blu-ray disc containing that specific soundtrack through a TV that rejects DTS, the television will frequently downgrade the signal to basic, flat 2-channel stereo before passing it to the soundbar. The salesperson won't tell you this because it requires reading the fine print of both instruction manuals. So, how do you beat a system that feels rigged against you? You bypass the television's limitations entirely using a feature called HDMI Pass-Through. If you own an older television that lacks an eARC port, or a TV that refuses to process high-end audio formats, you do not need to buy a brand new screen. Instead, look for a soundbar that explicitly features an HDMI input port alongside its main output port. Instead of plugging your streaming stick, like an Amazon Fire Stick or an Apple TV, directly into the back of your television, you plug that streaming device directly into the HDMI input on the soundbar itself. When you press play on your remote, the streaming device sends the raw, pristine, uncompressed audio and video data package straight into the soundbar first. The soundbar immediately intercepts the audio track, decodes the complex spatial data, and plays it perfectly through its high-quality drivers. Then, it takes the remaining untouched video signal and passes it cleanly up through the secondary cable to your TV screen. This completely eliminates the television's internal software from the audio equation. However, if you are using this method, you must verify another hidden specification: 4K video pass-through. If you have a beautiful 4K television, but you buy a cheaper soundbar that only supports standard 1080p video transmission through its ports, the soundbar will downgrade your gorgeous movie resolution down to basic high definition before it hits your screen. Always verify the pass-through resolution matches your TV's capabilities. For the gamers out there running a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, the stakes are even higher. If you plug your console directly into a standard soundbar to avoid audio latency, you might accidentally sacrifice your gaming performance. Modern consoles require an HDMI 2.1 connection capable of passing a signal at 4K resolution at 120 Hz. If the soundbar's pass-through ports are limited to 60 Hz, your video games will instantly lose half their maximum smoothness and frame rate. For an uncompromised setup, look at premium options like the Samsung Q series, which explicitly engineer their inputs to support full HDMI 2.1 pass-through features, preserving variable refresh rates and high frame rates perfectly. Let us wrap up with the physical surprises that occur the moment you unbox everything on your living room floor. First is the microscopic soundbar visual and acoustic trap. People often try to save money by buying a tiny $200 soundbar that measures barely 20 inches across, and they place it directly beneath a massive 75-inch television. This creates a terrible acoustic bottleneck. When a soundbar is physically narrow, the left and right speakers inside it are crammed close together. This completely destroys your stereo separation. When a car drives across your massive 75-inch screen, the audio cannot match the visual movement. The sound feels like it is radiating from a single, tiny point directly in the middle of your wall, completely breaking the illusion of a grand home theater. For a balanced soundstage, your soundbar should ideally span at least 2/3 of the physical width of your television screen. Next is the furniture geometry clash. Modern televisions have mostly abandoned the traditional center pedestal stand in favor of two thin plastic legs placed at the far edges of the screen, commonly referred to as duck feet. If you purchase a premium, high-performance soundbar, it is going to be incredibly wide to accommodate all those internal speaker drivers. The nasty surprise happens when you try to slide your brand new audio system under the TV, only to discover the soundbar is wider than the gap between the television legs. You are suddenly forced to either place the soundbar awkwardly in front of the television, pushing it off the edge of your media cabinet, or buy an entirely new piece of mounting furniture just to make it fit. Always measure the distance between your television legs before purchasing. This leads directly to the infrared sensor blockade. Even if the soundbar fits between the legs, many modern televisions sit barely an inch off the table. If you buy a thick, robust soundbar and place it in front, it will physically block the lower frame of your television. Not only does this cut off the bottom of your picture, but it completely covers the television's internal remote control receiver. You will sit down on your couch, point your television remote at the screen, and nothing will happen because the speaker is physically shielding the sensor. Always measure the clearance height beneath your screen. Finally, we have the ecosystem lockdown. Manufacturers love to advertise proprietary features that sound incredible on paper. For example, Samsung features a technology called Q-Symphony, which allows the soundbar to work in unison with your TV's built-in speakers instead of turning them off, creating a wider wall of sound. LG has a similar feature called Wow Orchestra. What the promotional materials hide in the fine print is that these features are completely non-functional unless you own both a television and a soundbar from the exact same manufacturer. If you mix a Sony television with a Samsung soundbar, the system will still function as a normal speaker, but those flashy ecosystem features you paid for will remain permanently locked away. When you go out to purchase your audio upgrade, ignore the flashy marketing stickers and follow this strict consumer checklist. First, ensure the system has at least 3 distinct channels to guarantee you can actually hear dialogue without subtitles. Second, look at the physical input layout on the rear panel. Verify the presence of an HDMI ARC port for maximum future-proofing, and look for at least one dedicated HDMI input port to give you the flexibility of direct pass-through configuration. Third, if the box proudly boasts Dolby Atmos, check the specifications to confirm the system features physical, upward-firing speaker drivers rather than reliance on digital virtualization software. Finally, check your room acoustics. If your home features hard surfaces and open spaces, prioritize purchasing a system that includes integrated room calibration software. These systems use built-in microphones to emit a series of test tones, mapping out the unique sonic reflections of your specific walls and automatically adjusting the volume of the individual internal speakers to clean up unwanted echoes. Do not let the showroom illusions or confusing industry acronyms pressure you into a bad purchase. Take control of your home theater components, measure your space, audit your television's ports, and force the hardware to work on your terms. If you found this audio deep dive helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment detailing your current living room setup, and share this with anyone currently struggling to hear the dialogue on their expensive new screen. Thank you for watching. I am Sal, signing off. Take care, stay informed, and I will see you all in the next episode.